Hello and welcome back to the Abel Lifestyle Podcast. Today we have Carlton Brunton. Made sure I didn't butcher that. Thankfully I got some practice in. And more likely he's known as Brunton Media. And today I'm really excited because you're a man of wisdom, have a great mindset, very consistent, and someone we have very similar mindsets almost, I'd like to think, of the chasing the top 1% and not just settling for average. So welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to chat, good to see where this goes. I never really know. I roughly have a rough idea on what we're going to talk about in shows, but I never know where the questions are going to go. So
it's
open book.
It's real exciting going on someone else's podcast because I came on yours literally about a month ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
And for me, similar feelings of this could go anywhere, and you know roughly where,
yeah.
you know roughly that, oh, this is my story, this is where it could go, but then it just turns into a tangent. You're like, well, how have we got here then? But where does your story start? Like, what's your because I know you had a bit of a sort of troubled childhood, almost with like identity, and we talk about stoicism on your podcast, and
Yeah.
I can imagine this has had a massive impact on your life and you trying to find your true identity and finding yourself. Talk to me about your childhood.
I mean, my childhood is probably not a new story. For me, it was new, and for those who have a more nuclear family, potentially it's new. But for me and a lot of other people, it wasn't. For whatever reason, my dad chose to leave when I was 6, 7ish. There was some connection still there for a couple of years, but I then made the decision because I was like, this is not helping me. This is not good for me.
It's not healthy.
So I decided to end it and end this conversation, and I haven't seen him since. At the time of recording, it's about 20 years ago, there or thereabouts. I know my mum's side of the story, but I don't really know his yet because I haven't re-established that connection. I'm sure there's more I don't know.
It's also like, what's it going to serve you at this point in your life as well?
Yeah.
Is it going to change anything? Is it going to do anything positive for you?
Yeah.
Almost, and not knowing is almost better in some regards.
Yeah, and I think, especially as a guy, to an extent, you look to a role model, when you're into your early, 10, 11, 12, 13, when you're going into what is a man, what do I do, how does that work, etc. I think you look for a male role model, so to speak, and I was, for whatever reason, I didn't have one to look up to, right? So when I grew, wrongly or rightly, that shaped me in a way, right? But I was still able to look and obviously see societal signs to say, okay, well that's acceptable, that's not. But as you grow and as you develop, and I think that's why I'm so driven to grow now, because I've constantly had to evaluate and rechange that for me personally, because I didn't necessarily have that parental figure. And this is no disrespect to my mum, of course. She did an incredible job and she's installed incredible values into me. But as a guy especially, you do look for a male role model, and it's not to, belittle or say that, our female parents don't do a great job, because they do. But we're looking for that male connection, in that regard.
I suppose it is a good thing and a bad thing in a way, depends how you want to look at it, because you had to quite literally learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
And learn for yourself exactly how the world should be. But like you say, having that father figure, and we talk about single mums and the amazing job that they do, no doubt, but you can't replicate and mimic what fatherhood can be like. So I imagine for you that was real tough to really discover yourself and discover how a bloke should truly be growing up. And I imagine it had an effect on relationships growing up as well.
Yeah.
You also diagnosed with dyslexia.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that my mum is very child-centric. She always has been, and she fought really, really hard during my secondary school years to make it known that I firstly was dyslexic, and then secondly, from that point, was getting me all the support that I could have. So when I did my GCSEs, I had every form of support you can have in a GCSE. So I had extra time, I had a scribe, I had a reader, etc. And it allowed me to have the education I have today. Obviously, like everything, and as you'll know, learning, self-development, growth in general doesn't stop just at school, and I don't believe it ever should.
It's not just a sort of one-way linear path. It's very rocky and ups and downs, and it's forever changing. But as long as you have that growth mindset, that's all that sort of matters.
Yeah.
So having that dyslexia,
It was definitely a set of adversities, you could say, from my starting point, which was interesting and caused, I think, some decisions that I'm sure we'll talk about, but also my trajectory up to this point. So I'm eternally grateful for it, and I am the man I am today because of those decisions.
And it amazes me with everything you do on the daily and all the amazing things that you do. Having that childhood, it doesn't make sense really how you've come today, because you didn't have that father figure around. Dyslexic, it's like straight away you had the walls up, you had the adversity, you had to jump over, and then the job you do today quite literally is the opposite of what you didn't have as a childhood. So it doesn't almost make sense how you're here today doing what you're doing. But it just goes to show, no matter what your upbringing and start in life is, you can quite literally go and do the exact opposite that the world's telling you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and it's funny. An old friend of mine that's is unfortunately not in my life, that I'm sure we'll get onto as well anymore at the moment anyway, said to me a couple of years back, Colin, people look up to you, and I just paused for a second. I went, shit.
Pressure.
What do you mean? Wait, hold on. No, hold on. What does that mean? And to an extent, it's an honour, but also on the other way, it's like, oh shit, yeah, that is what's happening here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also that pressure as well to, you now have to be this identity that you maybe don't even feel yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel that at times, especially with a lot of sort of positive, inspiring stuff I'm doing, I almost feel like, is that me? Okay, this clearly is me now, so I have to fulfill this role, fulfill this identity, and it's terrifying at times, to be honest, and it can feel like a burden as well, a real heaviness on your shoulders, until you start to really have to talk to yourself inwardly. That's even a word. You have to have that sort of intrinsic self-conversation yourself to go, yeah, do you know what? Okay, maybe this is my identity for the better. Whether or not it actually is right now, as long as I talk to myself through this is who I'm going to become, and this is the positive impact I can have on this world.
I think for me, it's about being... I hate using buzzwords, but I think it's about being authentic to who you are. And something that I did in my early career, and when I was just trialing this video thing, right? I was just trying, can it work? Is it fun? Do I enjoy it? Do I even want to do it as a career? I wanted to be authentic. And a lot of my work and a lot of my backbone of the business has been built on helping to promote Salisbury and helping showcase Salisbury, and that's authentic to me. Yeah. My love for Salisbury, my love for helping people tell their stories, and it's stuff that I've always done for as long as I can remember. So even back when I was, unfortunately graced with this turbulent, some people would say, childhood, it's that point where, to an extent, I was still, I was a big video gamer. I was looking into stories. I was telling stories. I was, where I could, I was trying to read books, which is obviously complicated as a dyslexic. But, you try and find those meaningful, emotional journeys. And I think for me, a lot of it comes from that. And I'm still trying to better myself in that craft now.
And the thing is, when everyone comes onto this show and they start to talk about making an impact, having that change in the world, I can see it in their face whether or not they mean it, and I can see the enjoyment of I'm trying to make this place better, I'm trying to make Salisbury better, this is my home, and I can see your face light up. So I know that real authentic actual feeling is there from you.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see, because some people, when they say these things, you can look straight through them and go, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas when you came on and said that, I just sort of almost took back from listening to what you were saying to actually your facial expression, and straight away I seen, this guy he's talking truth. And I spoke to my friend George when he came on, because he's TikTok famous as such, as his class, I like to say. And I said to him about content, about getting views, getting likes, and he said to me, authenticity is all that matters to me. He went, likes and comments and views, it's nice, I can make a bit of money off this. However, I always get views when I don't be myself. But what would you rather do in this world? Would you rather be really rich but not be yourself, or enjoy what you do, maybe not make as much money but be your authentic self? So for you, what would you rather? Would you rather be authentic and not earn as much, or
it's always an authenticity point of view for me, because it's always the question of we talk about this a lot, about the pantomime horse of doing it for views, doing it for attention, doing it for controversy. to get attention online. And the viewers who don't know, I have multiple strings to my bow. One of the things being a conjoint podcast with a good friend of mine, David Watson, and we help men chase excellence. And we in part of that in that show, we've had some experiences where certain comments and certain things, in the internet way, being the internet way, have gone quote unquote viral, and we've been shown that other side of the internet where you get viewership, but people don't necessarily connect with the message in the way you intended it to, and then we have to go back to the drawing board and go, okay, how does that change? In the same way with Brunton Media's context, I've done stuff and it's not had the reaction I expect it to have. Some is a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, and it's constantly evaluating and constantly changing what you do. But as long as you, from me anyway, as long as you operate in line with your values, whatever that is for you, you'll find people who synergize with those values. And that's something I think we both agree on is you need to operate from that value-centric core, and then you can't really get it wrong.
Because we were speaking on the way here about me in this podcast and how it's running, it's like financial streams and stuff like this, and I was like, for me, it's all about the process. It's all about enjoying what I'm doing. The money, yes, obviously money does, buy happiness, as they say. Money doesn't, grow on trees, and it can help us do a lot. But as long as I enjoy the process, when the money does come, I'm going to continue doing this because I enjoy the process and I enjoy the actual impact that this podcast can have and does have. So for me, as long as you're your authentic self, like you say, you stay within your morals, that's all that matters. And there's a lot of today's culture, content online. A lot of people have gone famous, they've made like a few million, like fair play to them, but the message they're actually trying to portray and what they're putting out there, I don't agree with. And I don't think it's right that today's culture is so almost trying to preach negativity and like not self-care just to make a quick buck. I could never do that. It's not within my morals to go online and sell something that we shouldn't be doing.
But that's where I think that you will differ, because those people who do that will have their quick win, they'll make their quick money, but they won't have a sustainable brand. A lot of the worlds I speak to and a lot of the people I speak to are in the marketing space, and we talk consistently about longevity, right? That yes, we're in an economic challenge. Yes, things are harder than they were 4, 5, 6 years ago, sure. But are you going to be around in 10 years? If you are, and you can build yourself to be a better business owner and build yourself to still invest and still have a good brand and still have a good set of marketing, etc., during this period, when we come out of it, which we will, you'll be paid dividends then. We're in a culture, unfortunately, where everyone wants to make a quick buck. Everyone wants to make a get rich quick scheme. Best way to get rich quick, those who are listening, write a book on how to get rich. There you go.
It's a delayed gratification.
Yeah.
It's like, how long can you do something without someone giving you a pat on the back saying, well done, you're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
It's doing the work behind the scenes that no one sees. And the only thing they will see is the views and the likes and the money.
I mean, even your podcast, it's a key example, right? Because, you've had, quote unquote, some success from it because of the viewership and so, sure. But what you didn't see and what people don't see is in some ways, the social karma that you were building up for however long by building your story to the point where you then decided, actually, let's do this show.
Yeah.
No, actually, let's tell this story in my way and see what happens, because I think that's what some people sit here and go, I'm seeing people who are quote unquote new in the business world, e.g. they started their businesses during COVID, and I feel like an old man because I've been doing it 7 years, and it's like, hold on a second, these people are so older than me. But I don't sometimes, and I struggled for a bit about comparing myself to people who are actually older than me tangibly, and it's like, well, actually, is that a fair comparison?
What do you think comparison can do to people? Do you think it's a good thing? Can it be a good thing?
Yes and no. It depends on the context, like most things, unfortunately, and it is a nuanced answer. If you let it get in your head, it can stop you doing anything. If you can use it as a yardstick to say, okay, well, these people are achieving this, how can I be inspired? How can I collaborate, etc.? I'm a massive advocate for collaboration. I think you are as well, etc. So I think it's all in context. I think there's a lot of people in the world, though, at the moment, especially those who rely on, video production, marketing, etc., to make their living, where they are maybe less collaborative minded because they potentially don't have an abundance mindset when it comes to the right people will come to me, and it can get a bit woo-woo and a bit law of attraction-y and a bit, which I am subscriber to an extent, but you need to be careful with how you just get conglomerated by that, because I think sometimes we can be like, oh, I'm just going to think good thoughts and manifest it, and then not do any work, and then nothing. Yes, good stuff can happen, but it actually has to be followed up with action consistently.
Because I'm in very much a space of trying to. I do believe in more, but I'm trying to work out whether there is more and the whole concept behind it. But the one thing I'm starting to learn is you can't cheat things, and like you say, I'm a big believer in manifesting good things. But like you say, you have to put the work in behind it. It's a lot with my running. I manifest my times, and a time for my 5-mile run recently I manifested that for a good few weeks, good few months. But I put the work in, and I got the result. And it's the same going forward. I'm trying to manifest still. However, I believe that, I don't know whether I'm religious or not, but I heard it saying like God does watch and God will give you exactly what you manifest and the work you put in. You can't cheat this life.
No.
And I'm a big believer in that. But we spoke about legacy on your podcast. I'm going to ask you the same question back, because we just spoke about it a few minutes ago. What is your legacy? You talk about longevity. What do you want your legacy to be?
I'll kind of go about this in a very odd way, so just please bear with me.
Go for it.
The crux for me is really important for people to understand what honour is before they understand what legacy is, because they lead into each other. Honour, from my perspective, is what does your last name mean, right? So if you're a man of your word, and I gave you my word to come on today, for example, I'm here. So that is me giving you my word. That my word means something. The issue with percentage of society at the moment is people will give their word and then they'll go back on their word, right? So they're not a man of their word. The principle comes from what would a man of honour do, right? You can go back as far as you want in history, but what would a man of honour do? Now, legacy in a nutshell, and I'm unfortunately don't work with this gentleman anymore, but I remember a very, very impactful conversation I had with a gentleman called Tommy Gentleman, who we worked together for a couple of years, all good. We ended up parting ways for a multitude of reasons, but long story short, he came on my show a couple of years ago and he talked about legacy. And he has his own story that I won't share here for obvious reasons, but in crux, legacy is you have 2 times where you die. Firstly, once when you physically die, and then again when your words, who you are, what you mean, so the last naming of Brunton or the last naming of Carlton, etc., or last piece of content, etc., is consumed or talked about. So a classic example could be William Shakespeare. He died a long, long, long time ago,
but his name's still here.
His legacy's still alive.
Is that? Do you know who you are?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, one of the favourite quotes I'm learning from at the minute and trying to delve deep into is having that undeniable stack of proof to say you are who you say you are.
Alex Supposi.
Yeah.
It's about self-doubt.
Yeah.
Very powerful quote.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't know.
And for me, last year, it was like, I think I know who I am. And this year is chasing the stack of proof to go, yeah, do you know what? Yeah. I am exactly who I say I am. And you can't doubt me and I can't doubt myself. And I think that eliminates that self-doubt. Do you get much self-doubt in
It's still there.
life?
It's still there. It's definitely still there.
Do you have any coping mechanisms with that, or ways to sort of conquer that or beat that?
I think there's 2 that I'll say. Number 1 is understanding that it will pass. But also number 2 is surrounding yourself with people who will pick you up when you can't. Because for me, I've been very fortunate and very blessed with the people I have in my life, right? And it's one of those situations where I have a negative situation that then opens up a door to a positive situation. Right, I can think of many. I know we're potentially going to talk about relationships today as well. You know, every negative relationship I've had has caused me to have a good one at the end of it, right? And because I've got closer to those people, we're now even stronger because of those things. And everyone close to me is because of that, you know, in that regard. But also I believe and I hope the best in people. Whenever I see them do something, or whether I try and help them do something, or etc., I believe in what I would call community karma or karma in general. Right? A lot of what I do and a lot of what I try to do, 95% I don't get paid for. But what I do is I have a lot of karma that then builds from me doing that, which in turn means in a world where I need it, it will then come back to me, is my belief.
I wholeheartedly agree. And it's something I'm still trying to learn. I'm very much in a space of I believe in more, like I say, and there is that karma and that luck almost, because... yeah, luck does happen, but it's also granted, I believe. And it's a real interesting sort of...
Well, isn't luck just preparation mixed with opportunity?
Ooh.
Because you prepare for an opportunity, and then when the opportunity, you were lucky if you were prepared for that opportunity. Well, actually, I think you make your own luck, because it's just preparation mixed with opportunity. The opportunity has to get to you at the right time, sure, but you also have to be ready to strive that opportunity. Because some people would lose an opportunity of a podcast, like today, for example.
Yeah.
Go, now I'm good.
Yeah, you just go, I'm not going to turn up.
I don't know who's going to hear this.
You don't, but you take the chance. And this is the thing. You look at views, you look at like counts on Instagram and Spotify ratings and stuff like this, and some people might go, you're not doing anything, you're not making no progress, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know who's listening, and people start talking and then opportunities start coming. So it's trying not to look at that, like you say, those short-term wins, those short-term financial gains. It's actually looking at the longevity and the long-term gain that can come from opportunities.
But also asking you, why are you doing it, right? Like a lot of what we talked about on my show was, what is your yardstick? What is your North Star? Is it money? Or is it legacy?
Or is it for the greater good?
Or is it for the greater good?
That's the thing.
Is it creating a space, creating an understanding, creating education, etc.? What is it? Why are you doing it? And I think a percentage of that should be financial, because we all have to eat, we all have to survive, we all have to heat our homes, etc. Especially in a world where we have an economic contraction, right? Where the economy is getting smaller. But actually, what's the reason why you get up on the days where you don't have a payment coming in, especially if you work for yourself?
Why do people want to achieve success? And what do you define as success?
There's multiple questions there. I think society as a whole, success is I have a big house, I have a beautiful girlfriend, I have lots of family, I have lots of cars. It's very materialistic in that regard.
And the thing is, I find they go, I want a nice car. They get the nice car. And they go, I want a nice house. You get the nice house. And it's like, I want 4 kids. They have 4 kids. Yeah. And it's just like, I want a nice ring. They get a nice ring. It's like, you're chasing happiness and it's never going to come.
It's funny. I talk a lot about happiness, and I was really fortunate to listen to the right part of Stephen Bartlett's podcast, where he interviewed a happiness specialist. And the crux was, when your expectations aren't met to what you expect, you won't be happy. But if your expectations are met, you'll be happy.
It's almost like, should you chase happiness, or can you just be content with? Yeah, can you just be content? Can you just do experiences? Why have you always got to be happy as such?
I think
is happy ever a thing as such?
Happiness is a fleeting concept, right? It comes and goes.
It's all open for interpretation as well.
I think a more important thing to talk about, a more important thing to focus on is, can we be grateful for what we have and what we get the option to do? I am given the option and the reality, and I'm grateful for the reality where I have people who choose to listen to what I have to say every day.
But strip it back. People aren't grateful at all in today's world, and they look at the big picture and they don't start their day by being grateful. The fact they get to wake up, they get an opportunity every single day to even breathe, let alone to go get the job they want. I get to go to my work, I get to go to work out, I get to go to eat, I get to go to say I love you to that person. And this is the thing with my mindset lately. I'm finding a lot of my sessions are tough. I'm having to really dig deep and take myself to a different place to get these sessions even done, let alone a real good session. And the mindset flip for me now is, be grateful you get the opportunity to do these things every single day, because there's people in hospital beds looking at you going, I wish I had the health to do what you're doing. And it's also the thing of, okay, yeah, this is hard, but I'm grateful that I can do these hard things.
I get to make the choice that it's hard. I'm not forced to it for it being hard, right?
Yeah, interesting.
If you were, like, for example, if you were in that hospital bed, you're forced to your life being difficult. It becomes a forced reality for you.
It's a different
You're
mindset.
not choosing. We're making a choice, sitting in our really comfortable home going, it's raining outside. Should I go and be a prick to myself and run out in the rain? And we're going to say yes, because it's the difficult thing to do that betters ourselves. Yeah. Sure. But the person in the hospital doesn't have a choice. If you ask them, do you have a choice to be ill? Or do you have if you could choose, do you want to stay here and be ill? Or do you want to get up and leave and go home and see your family?
They're going to take that out.
Every single one is going to say, no, I want to go home and see my family, but they don't get to choose that.
No. And I think that is what people need to remember and need to wake up every day saying to themselves. And it sounds a bit sort of barbaric and a bit extreme. However, that is quite literally the difference between life and death.
But we're an entitled view by the fact that we have the availability, time, energy, resources, etc., for us to sit here and have this enlightened conversation, hopefully, and then hopefully we can make meaningful change in others' lives. But we need to come at it from an understanding that we're entitled.
Very much entitled. And I think a lot of people have that sense of entitlement nowadays. They should have everything by doing nothing. And it's actually going, no, where's your hard work? Where's your sort of goodwill, your good nature, your good karma?
Yeah.
What are you doing to get that? I don't think
how do you develop the skills to then become the person you need to become? And something that, I've really focused on the last couple of years has been, whatever I make, am I building the skills to become the person that I wanted to be when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, etc. That person. And there's loads of quotes I use here, but the one I keep going back to is my role model now is me in 5 years, is me in 10 years.
And then your role model in 5 years
will still be me in 5 years. I'll never hit it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're always trying to aspire to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And again, this will come on to relationships in a bit, but when you go into relationships, you should be the best version of yourself for that person.
Yeah.
One thing I learned from school, and it's the best, I hated school, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't go back, I don't miss it at all. But the one good and most amazing, most powerful thing they got us to do was write a letter to ourselves for 10 years' time. And I read it back and I literally was like bawling my eyes out crying. Because I was like, every single thing, it goes down to manifestation again. Every single thing I wrote that I was like, we're going to get, I've got it. And it's something, you know what, off the back of this, I'm going to go do. And I challenge people listening to this to write themselves a letter in 10 years' time, saying things that you want, who you are, who you want to be, what you're proud of, who's in your circle, what you're grateful for each day.
Yeah.
Because it was reading it back, and I will read it back tonight actually, it's life-changing. Because it actually makes you appreciate where you've come from and where you are now. And then writing it in 10 years' time is setting those visions, setting those goals, but make it realistic. Make it unrealistic as well, but you have to try and achieve that. And how are you going to achieve that?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm going to definitely take away from today, and I challenge you and everyone else to do, because it is really powerful. But we'll go on to your business. Tell me more about your business. Why did you start your business?
Because I broke the system and I hated a job. The real reason why I started my business was I've always been passionate about video. As I alluded to in the intro, I've always been passionate about storytelling. I've always been passionate about helping entertain people or share a story or produce emotional based content, right? And long story short, I, like many, when you left school, you were like, what the fuck do we do now? And
I expect you to have the answers as well, which is like, as a 16-year-old, I can't decide what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, let alone a career in 10 years' time.
I mean, I was very fortunate, and I think it's important to mention to give the context. I was very fortunate from age 8, I knew I wanted to work for myself. And then from the age of about 12, 13, I knew it was somewhere around the creative field. So at this point, I was like, cool, I've won, right? Yeah. I just need to grind and I just need to create it and I just need to make it happen. That's it. But that's not what happens normally, right? And as someone who's done public speaking and et cetera as well, it's normal. It's not normally where people go into. I've gone into schools, I've talked to students, et cetera, and none of them have communication skills. So I was like, okay, why is communication skills the issue then? Because
what's changed?
What's happened, right?
Definitely, I think the lockdown and people not knowing how to communicate because they've been locked away for so long has definitely had a negative impact.
I think there's a natural social order, social question mark around how do we act, what do we say, what do we do, especially at the moment where by having an opinion, you can by proxy alienate the opposite side, e.g. offend the other side. And why does that? Because when we were growing up, that didn't matter as much.
Cancelling wasn't a thing.
That wasn't a thing. It was like, this person doesn't have the view I have, but that's cool.
It is what it is.
I
don't like this person now, but it's not like...
That's okay. It just tells me that I'm not part of their tribe. It's all good,
And now it's such cancel culture.
But now it's more, I'm offended, you need to change your opinion to conform to my view, and then it will, etc.
It takes away that sort of thinking brain.
Which to an extent, I think is a concern with... I know you want to talk about business, and I will go on to it, I promise. But I think there's a level of it though, which is it's easier to get people to do what you want or connect with the right people when they're talking from the same value set. And that's why I always say to people, look at the people around you Do they value the same things as you? And especially when you're looking for a romantic partner, do you and that person value the same things?
And do they align?
Do they align? Because if they don't, maybe it's not going to be a flourishing relationship, perhaps, right? But really, really quick nutshell on what we do as a business. I run a video marketing company based in Salisbury. We cover most of the Southwest. We create content to help businesses fully articulate and fully showcase what they do. In crux, that could be a conversation like this.
Yeah.
It could be, here's a use of our manufacturing services. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how we showcase it. Or it could be a theatre show. Right, so next week I'm filming a full theatre show for a client.
Oh, wow.
And, we do everything from, last year we did, events through till this is how we make a specific product for companies, all the way into, a client was giving a talk at a conference up in London. So we went up and filmed content for him, him then use that as marketing. So everything in between.
You're obviously in one area, however, it's so varied. And I think it's important to have that variety and capable amount of skills, because a lot of people go, okay, this is my one thing, and then it's just stop, and it's like, why do you not just keep expanding yourself and keep expanding your skills? It doesn't make any sense. But what is unique about your business, would you say? It's a question that might get you thinking.
I mean, I have a very different approach, and everyone who you ask who does video, and everyone who you ask in marketing is going to say, well, we think outside the box.
Tick in the box.
which is kind of, to an extent, you are, but I think the important point there is to understand, again, what's the client's values? What's the client's business? Do you feel you're the right fit? Does your ideas fit with what they're trying to do or not? Here's a
question for you then. If a client's morals and sort of standpoint doesn't align with yours, do you accept their business?
No.
Really?
I've turned down so much money I don't even want to tell you
because
either they don't align, I don't think I can work with them, or I don't agree with what they do.
Wow. And I
think in a nutshell.
I think that takes a real incredible character to turn down money for morals and for values. And I think there's such an important characteristic.
But it comes back to integrity for me. Because I can't say I'm integral and I can't say I stand for these things and I value these things and then work with people who don't.
But you've been going for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's...
You talk about longevity, and there's no sort of luck in that as such. It wouldn't happen otherwise, because word gets around quickly. We know how quickly word gets around, especially in a small town like this.
Yeah.
I think it's important to keep your reputation good and keep it clean almost.
Absolutely.
In some sense, because word can get round, and that's how you get business end of the day. And if people think highly of you, they're going to talk highly about you. Yeah. And then it just spirals off of that. So, like, kudos to you, my friend, for doing that, because a lot of people would chase money because they want to go buy the nice car. So
it's important, and I think for people to consider where their morals sit on it. Now, I'm not saying if we're close to the breadline and it's all within context, right?
Absolutely.
And there's some jobs that I'm like, this isn't an ideal client. I agree with the values, but it's like this is not an ideal job because it maybe pays a little bit less than I would like it to, or it's like not really something I'm really fired up about. But I'm like, I've got to make this amount of money before the end of the month, or I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna eat shit and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you got.
It comes from a place of abundance. It comes from a place of financial security. To you to say, no, I don't want that £10,000. No, I don't want that £1,000. Whatever it may end up being.
It comes from a good place. Like you know, deep down, I'm having to do this to provide for my family as such and for me, and that's what matters. But when it comes down to it, you know exactly who you are, what morals you have, and the values you're aligned to.
And don't get me wrong, there's still stuff that when I've been on what I would call the bread line, I've still said no to, because it's like, no, you're just not in any way. You're just going to be way too much work and way too much of a hassle, or you don't align.
It's like, for me, I'm seeking sponsorship, obviously not for just a financial sort of gain, but from a performance gain, from a running and from gym and everything. Like, people like, send out 100 emails to like loads of different places. I'm like, no, I'm going for the places that I want and that I feel I would be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure, I could go contact a massive multi-million-pound company, hopefully get lucky and earn, a few grand from that, but I might not want to be with that company. I'd rather be with a small independent one, say, and actually feel like I'm part of their team and feel like I'm their identity almost.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I want to allude to, is keeping in line with your morals and your values. But how would you define success, both from a business point of view and from a personal point of view?
It's funny, if you had asked me that question 5-6 years ago, I'd be like, loads of money in the bank, loads of materialistic things.
Rich.
I want the cameras, I want the studio, I want this, I want this, etc., etc. But I think now it's a very different game for me. For me, it's about thinking longevity, thinking legacy, thinking etc. So, what is my definition of success? I don't really know, is the honest truth right now, because I'm just kind of doing my thing. I've done my thing. I know how to work the system. I know what I'm doing, well, and I'm just eternally grateful to be able to continue to do this for as long as I can do it for. Yeah. You know, and I get to be graced to earn more money than I could ever imagine in most cases.
Doing your thing as well.
And doing the thing I would have done for free for ages. So. Yeah. I guess you could say my life now is successful, you could say, right? I get to pick and choose when I wake up, what work I do, what the projects I take, for how much money, who I get to work with, when I get to work, how I get to work. If I want to take a weekend off or a week off or whatever, I can do that. I don't need to consult with anyone.
And I think that is success for you. You're doing something you enjoy and you can do it on your terms within your morals. What sort of motivates you then each and every day? What gets you out of bed?
Oh, that's a funny one. I like this one. Yeah. It's funny because everyone thinks I'm going to go, I'm really motivated, I'm really this, I'm really that. I'm not, 95% of the time. I alluded to the fact that I talked about honours and value and all this kind of like value-based system. For me, it's very simple. Am I willing to do what's necessary today? The answer has been yes for a very long time. There may be a day where I say no, and then I will change my path, I'll change the business, I'll change what I do, etc. But as of today, I don't rely on motivation. There's days where I'm motivated, sure. There's days where I'm not.
So if it's not motivation, what is it?
It's discipline. You rely on? It's purely discipline.
How far can discipline get you?
As far as you need it to go, as long as you have the right mindset and as long as you're building for you. The issue with some people run into discipline is they're building for someone else. And they hate what they're doing, but they're forcing themselves to do it. And that's how you get burnt out, etc. And I'm not immune to burning out either. But it's different when you're working for yourself. Because I actually enjoy what I do as well. And I know and I can feel it. And it's very hard to describe because nowadays I just sort of, I hate saying it, but vibe it out. Yeah. Because I do. Because it's like some days I'll be like, I smashed it, I did this. But I don't let myself sit into this, I'm not motivated to do the thing. Because I've worked every single day since starting the business. Every single day without, I haven't taken a day off, pretty much. I can count them a year. Per year, I probably have about 5 days off across the year.
Wow.
Right?
That's consistency.
Actual days off.
Yeah.
And
that is true consistency, that.
And when you're at that level, you can't rely on motivation. You have to rely on discipline because I have so many things I have to do and so many obligations and so many things that need to get done. If I don't work every day, they don't get done.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It's that prioritization as well. Because we were talking earlier about how many times we go to the gym, how many times we work out, and it's like, okay, today I'm not going to train, but it's not because I haven't got time to. Yeah, sure, I haven't got time to, but actually it's because I've got other priorities. Yeah. And I think that change of mindset will then stop that guiltiness kicking in and that self-critique.
And I think it's important as well, though, to understand is as you add more to your life, you're running a business, you're trying to stay in good shape, you're trying to maintain a relationship, you're trying to still connect with your family, you still got friends, you've got all this. There's only so much time still, right? And you have to prioritize the things at the time. And, we were talking about, like, I'm not feeling 100% and, maybe I can't perform at the high level I want to in the gym. So it's like, okay, I'll take a step back. I'll take a couple of days off and then go back and see, or like maybe I'll tinge my shoulder and I'm questioning, is it just muscle fatigue or have I actually pulled something? And if I've pulled something, I don't want to then work out hard on my shoulder to then cause me to not be able to use my shoulder for the next, 2-3 months, which is actually more importantly, excluding the gym. That's a big problem if I can't use my shoulder. Yeah. Because I use it because I use it for work. Yeah. I carry cameras, etc. So in that regard, that's what I mean by you have to context it. And there's points where I've gone, I'm slacking. Okay, I can't do anything to change that. I then have to go, okay, from today, from tomorrow, yes, this is uncomfortable. Yes, this is difficult, but actually I'm just slacking here. I'm going to go and do that run. Yeah. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to do that, etc., etc.
Talking about lack of hours, here's a question for you. If you had an extra hour in your day, what would you do with that hour?
Sleep.
Yeah?
100% sleep. 100% sleep. No, and the reason I mention that is because people, I think, underestimate sleep. They see people who are really successful and really busy and really this, and they're flying over here and flying over there, or they're doing all these things, they're on these podcasts, they're running this, they're running that. And they go, oh, they must sacrifice sleep. No, don't sacrifice sleep.
No. Because that's how you perform.
Yeah.
That's how you're always at your best, physically, mentally, and...
Having an important eating pattern, physical pattern, and sleeping pattern is probably the most important things you can do.
Do Do you notice when you have a lack of sleep then?
Yeah.
Performance-wise?
Like, don't get me wrong, I can do it, and I've done it, you know.
We should have that ability to be able to do that.
I've done all-nighters, I've pulled all-nighters, you
Yeah.
know, when I do most of my DJ shooting, we mostly get back at 5, and it's like, there's no point sleeping at this point, because I've been up all night.
Daylight as well.
You know, it's also daylight, which causes a problem. But for me, it's about understanding in context. I don't do that a lot, and when I'm not doing that, my body's in very strong health, so that stress I'm putting my body under...
It's not worth it.
It is and it isn't. It depends on, again, the context.
The sacrifice of that night of, like, say, doing the DJ to get the gig, you have to do that, and that's okay.
Sometimes the job requires me to do that.
Yeah.
But the difference is, I'm not putting my body under constant strain because I'm obese.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm in very good, in my definition of the words, I'm in very good physical condition, which in turn means I can do things which others can't.
But that's a whole other world nowadays where people go on the body positivity stage, and it's okay to be overweight, it's okay to be fat, and it's just like, it's okay to have body positivity, yes. It's okay to have self-confidence, but however, when that goes into actually, your health's at risk, it's not good. Go lose some weight. And I don't
sometimes it's not wrong to say. I don't believe it's wrong to say that.
No.
I think you need to understand the context. You need to have more of a nuanced conversation with the person you're referring to.
Because genetically they might struggle understanding.
That's what I mean. It might be difficult, right? They might have, and also psychologically, they might have grown up in a family that didn't have nutritional understanding, wasn't really
worked out, might have drunk, smoked,
etc.
Don't know,
right? Or they might be doing it because, you know, like it goes the other way as well. Why 95% of bodybuilders probably won't tell you this, but 95% of the reason why bodybuilders are bodybuilders is because they were abused as a child.
Or they feel inadequate.
Or there's some level of, you know, they were beating as a child, or they were bullied as a child, etc. And they're trying to create themselves to be this strong, independent individual who's like, I will never be hurt again because I'm big and strong.
Character, you can't touch me, I'm untouchable. Yeah. And I spoke to a friend, Don one here, about it the other day, going, a lot of people go on steroids, I think, for they're trying to not feel inadequate. And I think it's a lot with gym goers, even myself at times, trying not to feel inadequate. And it's trying to actually go to the gym for good reasons rather than trying to not be that kid that got bullied for being fat.
But also, I think grounding yourself in UVU, we were talking about it on the way here, about, you know, that 16-year-old who looks at you going, wow, he's great, oh my God, look at that, etc. They're looking up to you, but you're not looking at them. You're looking at potentially either the stronger guy or the person who's running faster than you or you know, can work out longer than you or whatever it is. But I think it's really important when you look at fitness to understand what goal you want. And you know, I owe a lot to David because he was the one who built a lot of my fitness journey originally. And one of the first things we talked about is, well, what do you want to do? Well, you know, we're going to train very differently because we're runners and we're trying to be endurance athletes than a strongman. Yeah. You know, or a calisthenics person, or, you know, etc. It's very, very different, and
it's aligning to your goals and who you want to be,
exactly.
and what you want to chase.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with either or.
You know, if you're trying to do it for personally look amazing, okay, you'll have a certain set of workouts to do that. But if you're trying to train it to be an ultra endurance athlete, you'll probably look similar, but you're going to have to train slightly differently.
But it comes down to also that gratitude as well, of looking where you've come from. Because 10 years ago, you wouldn't be in the shape you are now. Yeah. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
I think that's the sort of where a lot of people go wrong just on the daily. It's just gratitude of not being grateful. Yeah. Why are you in a bad mood for? You're not being great. You're not being graceful today. You're not, having that gratitude towards things. Yeah. And I think that's why people get in a lot more worse moods, because they haven't actually gone and sat down and reflected and went, I'm really grateful for having good friends. I'm really grateful to have today. I'm really grateful I woke up.
Something I'm eternally grateful is, like, I don't live in a third world country. I don't have to walk 15 miles for water. Yeah. For clean drink water. And it sounds stupid,
got a roof over your head, though, haven't you?
That's what I mean. I'm alive. Yeah. Right? Like,
I get to eat, drink.
Yeah, sure. Maybe life sometimes hasn't been as comfortable as it has been previously, but like, really get off your entitled high horse. Like, come on.
You see those adverts on the TV that you want to turn off because you're like, I'm cringing right now, but it's like, that is literally their worst day is every day almost, because they have to, like, say, go walk 15 miles. Yeah. And you don't want to see it because you feel uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I'm sat there like, I should be doing something right now. Or
you know, and I'm aware that the political climate isn't exactly ideal right now. Yeah. So I'll choose my words carefully here. But, you know, as of today, as far as I'm aware, we don't need to worry about our house getting blown up. Yeah. Right. Again, the same thing. Yeah. Right. Like, I can walk outside and not be worried I'm going to get shot or kidnapped or etc. Yeah. Right. That's
unless it's a real bad day. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're grateful we live in an area that we can be able to go out on the streets and
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, there's a 1% chance that one of us could die. You know, I could walk outside your house and get hit by a bus after this show. But you know,
there's 2 bus stops outside, so there's a higher probability.
So there we go. I mean, touch wood, that won't happen, right?
No.
But I think the point there is we don't ground ourselves in how grateful we can be and how good our lives actually are.
But again, actually, when we walk out the door, we're not granted to come back.
No,
that's the thing. A lot of people leave the door expecting to come home that day,
which unfortunately you found.
I found out in the hardest possible way.
You know.
And to be honest, every time I do walk through that door, I go, made it home, tick.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's real crazy. And you talk about patterns and habits. Have you got any daily habits? And I know with daily habits and rituals, I was guilty of this, of trying to perfect that morning routine, that daily routine, and it almost got militant to the point it was unhealthy. Yeah.
Sorry,
and now I've dialed it back a little bit because there's certain things I still like to do to get me into a good habit.
Again, I think for me it's about grounding yourself again back into your values and what you do every day. Like for me, do I have a routine? I suppose I do. Yeah, I wake up around the same time. I do the same thing. I mean, at the moment I'm still intermittent fasting, so I won't eat till 12 o'clock. Okay. And then I'll stop eating at 8 o'clock. But that's what's working for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeing lots of benefits in doing that, hence why I'm doing it. I journaled daily for a while. When I say I'm going to do something daily, it's not difficult for me because I've done a load of things daily. It's just like, you know, when I said I'd post daily, okay, right, this is what we do. You know, for me, it's more about prioritizing what I do nowadays more than having a routine. And also, again, staying true to my values. If I say to someone, yeah, right, we're going to do this thing at that day, at that time, cool. How do I need to organize my life in such a way where that thing at that time can happen?
Yeah.
In that regard, I think that's more important than daily rituals necessarily.
You go down to that honour as well of fulfilling your commitments that you've agreed to as such.
Because I think it's very fluffy and it's very nice, but I think you can lose sight sometimes of, no, you just got to get shit done.
Yeah.
You just got the pace that, like, if people, sometimes I show this and I try to show it as much as I can, but I wish people could understand the amount of shit I get done a day. Is the reason why I win.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, you're lucky, oh, you're this, you're that. No, it's just, I just do more things than you do.
It's stacking small wins.
That's it.
Which will lead to that big win.
Yeah.
Every single day, people don't see the work that goes on behind closed doors of those little 1% that add up to that 100%. Yeah.
And people say to me, it's like, oh, it's the weekend, oh, I can chill out. It's like,
no.
What? What do you mean? What do you mean? It's another 24 hours you can win in. What do you mean?
That concept of time over the sort of Christmas to New Year break, time just seems to stop for everybody. It's like, if that's your concept of 1 week of the year out of 52, why can you not have that concept anyone else in the year? People go to work and they come home and it's like rest and recover from work tomorrow. And it's like, you still have a life.
It comes. No, I think it comes from really, really tribally and really, really basic. I've been fortunate where I've had a lot of time to think about this. And what I've come out with, maybe wrong or right, but I'm going to say it now, is a job, your job, isn't tied to, so your salary isn't necessarily tied to, like, you do your hours, you get paid, right? Mine is output related. My salary income, my amount of money I make a month is drastically tied to the results I provide, not how many hours I spend working for a client. It's a completely different system.
Input versus output.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with how many hours did I spend. It's everything to do with how well did it do.
How efficient and how great was that done?
Was the product good? Yes or no? Did it do the job I promised it would do? Yes or no?
Yeah, simple as that really.
It's not, and this is not disrespectfully meant to anyone with a job, but this is the difference between a job mindset and an employee and an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, of course.
Entrepreneur will go, how do I systemize this so I can do it in a quarter of the time and charge for the same amount of hours in theory in money, but for the 10 minutes it took me.
Yeah.
Not
every hour I get paid this amount. Yeah, that makes
not
sense.
my hourly rate. Like people ask me what my hourly rate is, I'm like, I don't have one.
Yeah. It's amazing that's the first question some people ask as well. Or like, it comes down to every time you meet new people, it's like, so what do you do? And instantly it's like, I work for X and Y and Z. And it's just like, you know, there's more to your life than just work as such. And I know for you, obviously, it is your sort of identity of Brunton Media as such, which is understandable. But for 95% of people, it's like, I do this for work. And it's like,
and I think just while we're on that topic, I think people should. I think 97% should work for someone. They should not be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is hard.
Yeah.
Like really
It's a
hard.
graft.
It's not just like, oh, this is really uncomfortable and this is really... No, it's really shit for a really long period of time, and there's a large percentage of your time where you question, why the fuck did I do this?
I could go to an easy job, quote unquote, and
Yeah.
earn the exact same amount of money, if not a little bit more.
Yeah,
But
but that's where you need to come back to your values about why you do it, and why you do it, and how, and what does it actually mean. If you just care about money, do yourself a favour, go get a job. Trust me, it's an easier way to get a paycheck, in my opinion, right now. But you don't. But then people are going to look at me in 15 years and go, "Oh, that's really easy for Carlton." But if you don't know, because they won't know necessarily the story from
the hardship
now
the
to then.
The times of struggle. That's what people don't see.
You know,
they sort of only root for you when you're at the top. They don't root for you when you're sort of at the bottom and growing up, because they're almost like, "Why is that not me? I should be that. I'm better than that."
Well, they want it without putting in the hours and the work and not getting the results for years and years and years and years and years.
What's your non-negotiables in business and personally as well?
Be a person of honour and do what you say you're going to do.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Simple and effective. I like it.
Everyone I have in my inner circle is very simple. Be a man or woman of honour.
What advice would you give to someone starting out as a business? Probably what you just said there, really, to be honest.
Be a man or woman of your honour. That I think that's what's missing in the world. And you want to absolutely demolish everyone in your competitorship. Be a man of honour and provide what you say you're going to provide. And own up when you make a mistake. Mistakes are going to happen. And go, I fucked up, right? And see how you can remedy that to the best of your ability.
Who do you look to for advice? David is probably one person, I'd say.
I reflect on... So it depends on the context. Personally, I start to reflect on me first. I sit there and say, right, how did I get here? Especially if it's a place where I'm hurting, right? And so it's a place where I'm like... So a year ago, for example, I got in a really shitty romantic situation. First time I talked about it. And in that process, I went, fuck, how did I get here? How did me, not what did she do, what happened, what was the external, no, how did I get myself in this situation? And I went, shit, I'm never letting myself get there again.
You almost go, how did I let my standards and self-value slip that low to be treated that way for
what,
such a
what
long
happened
period
here?
of time?
Yeah, what happened here? How did I fuck up? So that's my first step, right? Just really quickly on who do I ask advice from?
Yeah,
first step is me. I ask myself, I say, how the flying fuck did you get here, Colin? Right? Good or bad, right? Yeah. And if I want to simulate those results again, I'll go, okay, how did you get here? Do that again, right? In a world where I need input that is a different mind, that will depend on who I go to. Because I'll depend, I've got people in my circles who are going to take it from a different approach. Some are family, David's one of them, my mother's one of them, my partner's another one, etc. And depending on what the kind of context around that or the approach I want from the advice will be depending on who I go to in answer to the question. But it always starts from my own evaluation of how the fuck did I get here?
Look at yourself and point fingers at yourself.
And take 100% accountability for me. Yeah. And good or bad. Is it a result I wanted? Great, fantastic. How do we remedy that? How do we make it better? How do we do that again? Yeah. If it's a result I didn't want, shit, how do we get here? Why the fuck did we get here? What happened there?
Yeah,
etc.
Because one thing we've got in common, you talk about relationships, we're both in sort of a quote unquote, I don't like to use the word because it can be labeling, however, an abusive relationship. And again, it goes down to that sort of, what did we do wrong? Because looking back at it and sort of when I did finish my previous relationship, I looked at myself and went, yeah, okay, these are the things I did wrong. And I did own up to all those things. And the person in sort of what we're talking about was trying to throw X, Y, and Z at me. And I said, you've got nothing on me because everything I did wrong I owned up to and I apologise for. And now you're just trying to pick faults to make yourself feel better for the unacceptable actions that you took.
I think it's important to mention before we go down this yardstick is, for me personally right now, I'm in a really healthy, powerful relationship that's really, really good for me. So just saying, everything I'm now going to refer to is previous relationships.
Yeah.
But I think when someone's there, the important point is what I mentioned to before about accountability, because you can only change either your reaction or what you do, right? Now, sometimes people, for whatever reason, male or female, they choose to not reflect on their own actions and take accountability for those actions,
just
right?
Finger pointing, isn't it? And
they just go, no, it was your fault. No, fuck you, it was your fault. No, fuck you, it was your fault.
And the arguments start and it spirals, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's when, and normally, if you want to go down the psychological principle of it, I think it's important to mention that normally it's triggered from something in your childhood.
Parents.
First 7
potentially.
years on average,
Yeah.
from what I know.
Parents
right?
potentially, someone you've been around.
It doesn't even have to be parents. It could be anything. It's
Yeah.
just when we are 7, from 0 to 7, we're sponges.
Neuroplasticity is
Neuroplasticity,
where the brain is like a sponge for information, and the information.
We just take
pulls up.
everything in. We just take everything in, and this is really important for those who are starting parents or looking to be parents, etc.
Because a lot of people sort of our age are, and I know a lot of my friends who are literally have got 1 to 3 year olds or even 6 months olds, and it's like, listen up, guys.
If you are in a household at that age where there's a lot of arguing going on, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of worry about finances, there's a lot of this, a lot of that, that's going to have a knock-on effect to when you're an adult. And it takes healing. I noticed, and transparent, open facts. Why have I previously, not my current relationship, but previously chosen the people I've chosen in relationships? Because I was looking for validation from my father. That's the crux. If you really want to go down into the nit and grit and real deep, hard questions of it, that's the answer. That's not a comfortable answer.
No, however, it's the truth.
That's the reality, though.
That's how you heal and get better, and are now in a place of being in a happier relationship.
And to give your audience some context that don't know, that's taken me to the darkest places you can go.
Yeah.
I have, those who know me, I have tattoos on my wrists. They're on my wrists for a reason.
Yeah.
I've hurt myself. I've tried to commit suicide. I've been there. I've done that. I know it's not the answer. And ironically, a year and a half ago, I thought I was past it. I thought, nothing can ever dent me. I can't ever go back there.
I'm stoic.
Because I was at the age 13, that was when the issues were.
Yeah.
That's when I was in my real emotional, manipulative relationship. And that's what pushed me to it. But I was like, fuck, I went back there again, fuck. Now, I didn't go there, don't get me wrong, because I already knew that wasn't the path. Because I'd been there, I went, and I had tattoos on my arm. And the reason why they're on my arm is because I'm reminded every single day that's not the option. Regardless of how dark it seems, regardless of how bad it is,
it's a daily
keep
reminder,
going,
isn't it? Yeah.
right? That's why I have always forward written on my wrists, and I have trust in the process, ironically,
Nice.
as you alluded to earlier, on my right arm. And, that's why they're there. And people ask me, well, I can't read them. I say, well, in the nicest way possible, they're on my arms for me.
Yeah.
They're not
I don't
not for
need
me
you
to
Yeah, it's not like, read this.
it's not for me to go, look at me, I need attention. It's for me to have reminders so I can look at them, and that's why I got them to face me, so I could read them every day.
And it reduces the chance of you slipping back into those
Well,
sort of low standards and sort of.
But also, it's a reminder of the person I have become, and I've beaten, and I've got past, and I've gone through those things.
And I don't think many people can say that.
No, it wasn't easy. It isn't easy, and it's taken me a long time to get there. I have a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and that's why I said, like, the crux, why, when you really get down to the nuts and bolts of why I chose the people previously I had chosen, excluding my current relationship, it was because I was looking for validation from my father, because I didn't have a father figure to get love from.
Yeah.
Right?
It's sort of filling that void that you didn't have.
Yeah, but I didn't even know I was doing that because I was so young. I didn't understand the psychology. But when I really delved into it, and I really asked myself the hard questions, that's what I came out with.
You looked deeper and actually understood.
And 95% won't do that.
No.
95% of people won't even go closer. No, that's too painful, I'm not doing that. That's why they drink. That's why they smoke. That's why they get addicted to XYZ. That's why they watch TV. That's why they play video games. And I've done a percentage of what I just referred to, mostly the video games and TV, rather than smoking and drinking. But I can understand it. I can get it.
Yeah. Well, I've been
because they're looking for an escape.
I've been there with drink in the past. Like I've been really stressed. I've been depressed, to be fair, and a few years ago, and got to the point where I was drinking myself silly to forget. And
you want to get to the point. I would assume I've never done it. I would assume you want to get to the point where the pain gets numbed.
Yeah, you almost go. If I keep drinking, I don't feel anything. I don't think anything because I'm not going to be sort of present in here. And actually, what you're doing is just sort of delaying that outburst, delaying that sort of breaking down, delaying that burnout, and that is literally what happened. I drunk myself to a point that people think I just went, he's just an idiot that night, drunk too much, where he mixing his drinks. It's like, no, actually, not a lot of people know that one night I drank myself to a point to forget, and I woke up next morning in my bed going, how the hell did I get here? And I spoke to someone who was like, this is the point where you go, this is where you go get counselling, this is where you go talk, this is where you go deal with it. And now every time I get sort of stressed or down or really struggling, I go, stay away from alcohol, because you've been there, you know exactly what it can be. And people listen to this go, when the hell was this, mate? Ask me next time you see me. And to be fair, my closest people do know when this was and sort of stuff like that. But It's that staying away from those triggers.
Would you say it's a less stoic thing to say as a man? Because I think naturally, right, men are meant to be stoic, they're meant to be strong, they're meant to be this, they're meant to be that. Like, how dare us connect with the reasons core why emotionally we're fucked up, right?
Yeah. But I think the most stoic guys are the ones that are in connection with themselves, who have that deep internal conversation with themselves every single day and remind themselves why they're still going after their worst day.
Yeah.
And who have taken themselves to a point where they almost didn't want to be here anymore, but got to a real point of lowness and depression. I think they're the most stoic. They're the ones who are able every day to bounce back and try and make this world a better place and to do good for the world because they've seen how cruel and low it can be.
Yeah.
And I think coming out the back of toxic and emotional abusive relationships, for us to then, like, you're in a healthy relationship now, and for me, I'm in a real good mental place where I'm ready to date again. I think it's taken a lot of like internal conversations, like you said, to be in this place of happiness again. And I would say the word happiness, or content, should I say, to be okay with what we've been through, to then actually allow someone back in.
Yeah.
And I think that takes a lot. So with your relationship, how did you finally understand that what was going on wasn't right? Was there a moment in time where you went click, and that was that? Because I find with like the emotional side, it didn't hit at all during, because it was small little add-ons every single time that just progressively got worse and worse and worse and worse. And you think it's just normal because it's just 1% more each time?
Yeah. I think it's important to, in some ways, consider that, you know, especially when I'm referring to my first relationship, I was so young. Like, I got into that relationship at 16, or like, no, probably earlier than that, 15. And, you know, I had it for 3-4 years, right? And at that point, it was like, you don't know which way's up, you don't know what. So
that's an important time.
Did I know? Fuck knows. No. Fuck knows. No idea. No. You know.
But you're still you're at this age where you are literally learning about everything.
Yeah. You're like, how does this work? What do I do?
Yeah.
And it took me, you know, a good 6-7 years to get to the point where I really understood it and understood what had happened and understood, no, that's not normal. Because if you don't have a relationship after that that's healthy, or before that that's healthy, you think that's healthy.
Yeah, you think that's normal.
You think that relationship that's toxic and is etc., and for obvious reasons I won't go into detail, right? But that reality is healthy. You think it's healthy, you believe it's healthy, and then you are like, I can sit here now as someone who's in a healthy relationship that is genuinely healthy, and you know, how long is a piece of string? Who knows how long it will last? It will last for as long as we both choose it to last. Yeah. It's the crux.
And you keep putting the work in every single day.
But that's the point. Exactly. That's the point we've made. We've both said, you know, we both given a choice, right? Every day we either choose each other or we choose not, right? And for as long as we choose each other, you know, we won't stray away from things that make us uncomfortable. Right, when someone says something, like when my partner says something to me that I find uncomfortable, I'll tell her, or vice versa.
Communication.
You know, and you know, it's really important. And the 3 keys I have for every relationship is communication, understanding, and then forgiveness.
Nice.
Right, because if you have those 3 fundamentals, I believe you can fix any relationship. But the key is as long as both parties are willing to fix it. If you're the only one willing to fix it, you're fucked.
Yeah. And when I was going through all my sort of abuse at this point, my partner, I said to them, I'll get you help. You want to go get help, I'll take you there. I'll walk you to the front door. I'm not coming in to the room because it's none of my business.
That's your thing. You got to fix. That's a you thing. You got to fix that.
Make yourself better. I'll take you to the door as that support.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a person who is deep in counselling at this point for all the trauma and therapy that I've been through. So I knew the power and the sort of effectiveness that talking can have. And I believe that is probably one of the sole reasons why it didn't get better and it got progressively worse, because that person refused to talk about things, not only to me, but to someone external, and wouldn't better themselves.
I think it's important to mention, etc., though, that healing is a very personal thing.
Yeah, and not saying that therapy or, counselling.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I mean. For you, fantastic, it worked.
Yeah.
Right? But for someone else, it might be they've got to go and run a 50-mile run every day.
Yeah.
Right?
But there was nothing.
Or give that space. But they have to be, the key there for anyone is they have to be willing to do the process. And even if you don't know how to heal, You've got to be willing to go and try and find it.
You can take a horse to water, but you can't.
You can't make it drink.
Yeah, so
exactly.
many. I know we could probably go back and forth like table tennis, like these analogies out. But yeah, where do you think people go wrong in their relationships? What do you think is a big killer? Would you say?
Personally, I would say it's not necessarily a killer, but it's something to consider before you get into one, and if you should then continue to be one. Are you two people who can exist completely independent of each other, and or not? Yeah. Right? And what I mean by that is the idea of you and that person part of your own frame of reference in the world? Is that part of who you'll become as an identity? It will always be part of it to an extent, but is it your core identity?
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of who I'm with, I'm still Carlton of Brunton Media. Regardless of whether I'm single, regardless of whether I'm celebrating, regardless of whether I'm married, regardless of in a relationship, whatever.
They should add to your identity.
Yeah.
They should make your value better, and they should make you happier, not the reason you're happy.
Yeah.
And I alluded to this on a previous episode, and my friend was going through tough times with his partner. He said, "Oh, these things are really tough right now. I don't know what I'd do without her." I'm like, "You'd be absolutely fine. You're a really strong guy. You'll be absolutely fine." And a few weeks later, I was like, "How's it going, mate?" He's like, "Yeah, all good now. Just I couldn't imagine life without her." I went, "Stop." I was like, "She makes you happier. She should have value to your life."
So this is depending on what side of the internet you want to go down, but if you want to go down the blue pill, red pill route, this is the kind of the issue that some people can run into, which is to an extent, they get so reliant on the happiness that person gives them. It's like a drug to them, right? They get high on that endorphin. They get high on that dopamine of, oh my God, this person's so amazing. And I think for me, it's really important, especially as men, to be willing, not to want to walk away, there's a difference, but to be willing to.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to compromise where you don't want to compromise.
Because I said to my counsellor, and I've spoken about this before, like the point, I said to her actually about a year before this all sort of kicked off and got a lot worse, I said, if I ever get to this point in a relationship, no matter where I am, what I have, kids, marriage, house, whatever, if I get to a point where my self-worth is diminishing, regardless where I am, I'll leave, I'll walk.
Yeah.
Because I actually am in debt to myself to hold myself to that self-value and self-worth. And I don't think people do that because they get comfy, and then there's the scared to be in the unknown and the what ifs. Is this the right decision? All that matters is your own self-worth and self-happiness. Everything else external is just almost irrelevant. And
don't get me wrong, it's not to say that, one is not grateful for who they have in them, but that's why I say, that's what when you ask me what motivates me. I have a certain amount of ideals that I stick to every day, regardless of how I feel, regardless of this, regardless of that.
You're non-negotiable.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? I have these things to do, and they will get done regardless. Right? And I think for me personally, I think it's really important to ask yourself before you get into a relationship, or if you've just come out of a breakup, or whatever you're doing, wherever you are, to ask yourself what your fundamentals are and reconnect with them. Because what I found, especially in the situation a year ago, was, okay, I got this wrong. Fuck, what else did I get wrong? Shit, what else did I get? What else have I got wrong here?
Just having that self.
Right, and it's not just in a relationship or in partnerships or in anything. What else did I get wrong about me?
Yeah.
What bets did I put on myself that now could be wrong?
Do you reckon that things in the relationship weren't good, and you having that self-reflection on the relationship, what you did wrong? Do you think other areas of your life were affected where you've gone, hang on, that was out of character for me because of this stuff going on?
I think we can't. I think there's no benefit in saying what if it didn't, what if it was, because the reality of the fact is, you and I are sat here today because of the stories and because of the things that have happened to us, that have drawn us together. So we have this conversation.
So this goes down to the would you change it? Probably not.
I don't, and I remember it very clearly because a very old friend of mine that has been in my life for 10 years asked me, would you change your mental health concerns, issues, the fact you need to commit suicide, etc., etc., and I said no. Because would you change how you approach? Would you change dyslexia? Would you change any of these things? And I said no, because that's the reason why I am who I am today. That's the context that allows me to do and be who I am today.
That's you. That's Carlton. That's Carlton Brunton. And that's who the authenticity is.
Yeah.
That's who makes us special.
And
gives us that identity.
Yeah, and that allows me to also be able to empathise with people who are potentially going through things that if I hadn't gone through those things myself, I wouldn't be able, for obvious reasons, I wouldn't be able to empathise.
Because I find myself, it sounds absolutely crazy to say, I find myself lucky that I get to help so many people who are going through the worst things because I can relate to them.
Yeah, of course.
Someone's losing their grandparent, like in a hospice, like been there. And it's like, I'm going through this. Yep, been there, ticking the box. Like done this. Yep, ticking the box. And it's almost like, geez, I have been through a lot, but you know what? If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to support that person, actually make them feel like they're cared for.
Yeah.
And to be fair, half the time it's just listening and having that communication and being able to just sit there and go on, talk.
Or not talk.
As in saying to that person,
Yeah.
I'll give you the space to, actually, to be fair.
Sometimes,
sometimes,
like, I remember I quote your show from episode 1. Sometimes it's not like, what do I say to him? What do I do? It's not that.
It's all about presence.
It's about
just being there.
Just you knowing that they're there. Look, I know you may not want to talk about this right now. All I want you to know right now is you know where I am when you do and if you do. If you don't, that's cool, right? Because sometimes, especially with me, there's some shit that I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. I just need to know you're there so I can lean on you when I need to lean on you.
Yeah.
And I can deal with these demons myself, right? I can go there, I can do that run, do that workout, whatever it is. I can take my mind back there and I can use it as the energy and I can deal with the issue, fix the issue, heal the issue, etc. But what I need is the people to lean on.
Yeah, and that's what friends are for, and that's what a partner should be for. I was speaking to someone yesterday about it, saying, a partner should be when the guy is feeling vulnerable and emotional and weak and low, you should be able to help him gather the strength to put his armor back on to go and be the provider for you and be the strength for you and be the protection for you.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to the being able to be self-aware and to continually work on yourself. I'm back on the dating scene and I've spoken to one person who'd been through a lot of trauma. It happens. But they said instantly straight away, it's been put to the back of my head and I'm not going to deal with it now. And I'm like, that is going to explode one day. Yeah. And obviously I was like, please go and seek X, Y, and Z. Directing them to signposting them and sort of stuff. Yeah. I was like, that's not for me because you're not working on yourself, and that is straight away a red flag. But
that surely comes back to values, right? Like you're not gonna choose someone who's that way,
no,
right?
It's emotional intelligence as well.
If you're, I've spoken openly about it, but it was open for me when I got into my newest relationship. The first time I was truly vulnerable, I was like, shit. This is the bit where they go, isn't it? This is the bit where they leave, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 3, 4, 5 months down the line, surprise, no, they don't, right? Sometimes they don't. But, my ideology was, I need to be stoic all the time. I need to be strong. I need to be the man. I need to be this. I need to be the leader. Blah, blah, blah. But actually, when you find the person who is in line with your values, you can actually have people who you can be yourself with. And I think that's important because then you don't have to have this facade. You don't have to have this, yes, I am this person, but I'm not. You don't have to pretend, you can be you.
Yeah.
And if something annoys you, something upsets you, something makes you uncomfortable, it's not about having an argument for the sake of having an argument. I've never believed I've had an argument with my partner. We've had conversations where there's been conflict, sure. Would never call it an argument though.
You wouldn't raise your voice to that person. You'd sit there and have a conversation, and I'm not going to say exactly who it is, but I had a conversation with someone about this and said their parents used to argue all the time, like constant. And they go, that's just them, that's just normal. And I turned around and said to this person, that is not normal.
Yeah.
That is exactly why this... I'll carry on from that. That's exactly why.
That's all right. Do you want to take 2 seconds while I just swap the card out?
Yeah, no worries. Good so far. I'm enjoying this.
Good.
It's almost just like, I don't know if there's any talk about Mexico.
I had an assumption, but...
Yeah, I would say that I delivered to my mum's workplace.
That's all right.
Would be welcome back.
That's fair enough. We were just talking about arguments.
Yeah, I'll go, this is exactly why you're the way you are, because you accept their poor standards and their poor values. Yeah. Arguments should not be normal in relationships. Disagreements, 100%. You should have those uncomfortable conversations. And you should be able to have those open conversations. But arguments and shouting matches, what's that achieving? Where's that getting you? Just making you hate the other person and not get on with them at all. Makes zero sense.
Yeah, and it doesn't come back to the 3 pillars which I follow in every relationship, which is communication, understanding, and forgiveness. Yeah. You can't communicate effectively if you're yelling.
And I've been speaking to someone lately, and the first thing they said to me is, I'm having struggles from my previous relationship, but I'm aware that these things are what they are.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to work on them every single day. You just have to bear with me and just communicate with me about this. And
I think that comes from transparency, though. Like I said, day one in my now current relationship, look, we might find some shit I haven't healed from, right? We might find some shit with you as well.
Exciting.
Right? But it's how we navigate those things, right? It's not about... Firstly, it's about understanding that that's going to happen. And then secondly, it's about saying, okay, how do we deal with this when... Because, look, relationships of any kind are hard.
Yeah.
It's
not easy. It's not linear.
It's not a Hollywood story.
No.
Sorry, it's not.
No. Might make a great Netflix series, though.
Yeah.
Make a look at it.
Yeah, no. I think the real reality of the world, though, is things are difficult and they take work. Anything. A business, relationship, friendship, podcasts, whatever you're going to do.
It comes down to people don't want to put the work in.
No.
As simple as that. And to be honest with this person that's saying, you know, I've got past trauma that I'm trying to get past, I'm trying to work on them.
Yeah.
I find that attractive because they're still trying to work on themselves. They're very self-aware and emotionally intelligent. And I'm like, as long as you communicate and don't take that out on me directly, I don't see an issue with that. And it's like, I've got a massive backstory of trauma. And I didn't throw it on them within the first hour of talking to them because it's like, whoa, okay, steady on. But I've said, you know, I had to allude to it at some point. I couldn't hide away from it forever.
No.
I said, you know, I'm training for this marathon. It's like, why are you training for this marathon? It's like, well, this whole backstory.
Yeah.
I tried to numb it down to start with and went, oh, I'm doing a podcast. Why are you doing a podcast? Like, okay, here's the podcast. You want my story's on there. Whenever you're ready, go and listen to it. 4 days later, listen to it. And you went, I'm really glad we did it that way round rather than you going, here's all my trauma. Blah. And it's actually having that sort of natural flow to it.
Yeah,
and it's working really well since because of that. But it's having that sort of mutual understanding that we go through shit, we go through stuff, and it's okay. Just work on it together and communicate together. And I believe my last relationship wouldn't have gone to the extreme lengths it did, if communication from both parties, myself having that accountability, if communication was better.
Yeah.
And I think, like you say, communication is key in anything in life.
Yeah, and that's what, and it's funny because we've come kind of full circle to an extent, and it's why I focus on communication as a professional career, because it's something that we need to get better at doing as a society. Period.
We need to practice it almost.
Yeah, it should be taught. And yes, I know we're taught English. That's not the same as communication.
No.
Communication, intelligent, emotional intelligent, and intellectually intelligent communication, in my opinion, should be taught in school.
Yeah, it's completely different. How would you talk to different parties and individuals and backgrounds and stories? And it's one thing I'm loving about this podcast, to be fair. Regardless of all the sort of inspiration and help and, you know, the reason why I'm doing it, I'm learning how to communicate more. I listen back to these episodes because I have to edit it, which people don't realise I actually do. I listen back to it and go, like, shut up, mate. Stop talking, let them talk. And then sometimes, like, I say too much. And then it's actually... I'm starting to learn more about myself, how I should communicate more going forward, and the podcast episodes are starting to get more in-depth questions, and I'm just learning how to communicate properly, and I'm starting to practice this when I go to work or when I go and have a coffee with a friend. I'm almost practicing for this podcast of things that I learnt from the podcast that I want to go and do day-to-day life. And it's real interesting to sort of have that mindset and concept of learn.
Would you say that's an important element, though, to consider? Because people sometimes they look at what the as we were talking about earlier, about what's the monetary value of the podcast. When I would say, what skills have you benefited from doing a podcast? Well, as you already said, you're a better communicator because of it. Yeah. Right?
And people would expect that I'm chasing money and chasing fame and chasing stardom, and it's actually, no, I want to be a better communicator. I want to help people. I want to inspire people. And it's having that process and having that sort of backstory and that enjoyment. Monetary gain, sure, would love to buy a Lamborghini one day, would be amazing. However, if that comes one day, I'm still going to continue doing this because I enjoy the process and I become a better human being off of doing these things.
But would you also, let's flip it the other way, would you say that, let's say for whatever reason you stop the show after this episode, not saying you're going to, of course, but if you did, would you still look back on it and smile and say, oh, I did really good because I built all these skills and it was part of the fundamental growth of me?
Massively, because it's doing something uncomfortable. It's doing something that I might not necessarily want to do because I'm doing these conversations publicly. You open yourself up for critique.
Yeah.
You are literally putting yourself out there to go on, what do you think about me, eh? Do you like me, do you not? What do you think about this? Someone texts me going, this is my feedback. And I'm like, do I listen to this? Do I not? Like, if we had a conversation in the streets, they wouldn't text me after going, this is what I think of you, would they? But looking back at if I was to stop this podcast, it's been a massive success because of what I define as success. It's been a massive learning curve. And it's also doing something that is really uncomfortable. As much as I love public speaking and something I want to do as a career, it's still uncomfortable to do. Because there's not something that's quote unquote normal. Because the normal is sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's just doing something every day where you're continually learning. And all these things we've spoken about, I think we could probably, after this episode, sit down and go, right, this is how to be a human being. Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
So, like, this conversation today has been really enthralling and surprising as well. Because I was expecting to come on and go, this is your story, here's your questions, really fascinating to listen to. But I'm almost trying not to ramble on because I'm like, I don't know what direction this is going because it's so fascinating and it's opened my mind to new ways of thinking, and the information you've given and added to this podcast has been just mind-blowing.
But that's I really appreciate you saying that. Firstly, I mean, secondly, I think that's why people need to go into an open mind. When they go on a podcast, every conversation, any conversation you have, whether that's with a parent, a friend, a stranger, on a date, whatever you're doing, I think it's really important to go in with an open mind because you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and you can start a podcast up and go, what do you think of the Power Rangers? And it's like, hang on a minute, I'm not here to talk about that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, for me, as someone who does a lot of conversations with people who maybe I don't know a lot, once you do it, you gain a lot of social skill, as in the ability to speak to anyone, right? And there's certain people who you'll really quickly understand, we're gonna cut this off really fast, fella, because you are really boring or really annoying or both. But there is a lot of things that you can ask, and I think you'll find actually the more you do it, the more you'll realise that everyone is very, very similar in regards to like what we talk about. Our nuance and our opinion is slightly different, but actually the crux and the nuts and bolts is very similar. And it's why I find watching the self-help and the kind of this space grow has been really interesting. As I say, it sounds always really weird when I say it because I'm 26, going to be 27 this year. But as someone who's been around it for a long time, and I've lived on the internet from the age of 13, so to give your audience some context, that's a long time. I've seen things change. I know I've seen trends come and die, and etc.
That's what you do for work as well. You've got to keep up with these trends.
And I personally, that's why I never will push a client to, hey, you should do a trend, because it doesn't help them build an authentic personality and personal brand, right? It doesn't help them build their brand.
It comes down to your values again, though, like you say.
It's not about being authentic. If you're trend jacking, you can't always be authentic necessarily.
What question would you wish people would ask you when they first meet you?
What are you grateful for today?
Oh, God, that's deep. What are you grateful for today?
The fact that I'm in a very strong position in every realm that I would gauge as successful. Financially, mentally, support, socially, relationship, health, etc. If you had told me 10 years ago that this would be my day-to-day, I would have laughed in your face.
Really?
Yeah. Because, and this is what, to an extent, I think people don't get when they lean into patience. Because people ask me, what's your financial goal for this year? I've thrown all that out. After last year and after like the last couple of years with COVID and etc., I've just thrown it all out.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Because you're defining success and happiness of money and value.
And again, it's like, you said, what motivates me or what do I do every day? And I'm just in the process of, I'm just trying to enjoy it. I'm just like, okay.
What's the point doing something if you don't enjoy it?
I was like, am I alive today? Yep, cool, fantastic. Do I get to do what I love? Yep, absolutely. Do I get to be supported by those who I really, really love and appreciate and hopefully can add value to? Great, fantastic.
There's three things there, and listen to that. I was like, bloody hell, this guy is living life like he's won. Like that is definition of win.
That's what I mean. It's not. I'm in a very fortunate, grateful position where I'm surrounded by people who love me. I get to do what I love for a living, and. Do I have stress? Sure, but it's stress in the right context. It's stress in...
It's good stress almost.
I'm building for the future. It's stress. I'm putting the expectations on myself to become better every day because it's for me, not for my partner, not for my mother, not for you, not for my friends, for me, right? And everything I do and everything I try to do and do better is because of me. It's for me. And that sounds really selfish, right?
We should be, I like the term positively selfish.
Yeah.
Because
And,
I think we have to be selfish in this world. We have to.
I think there's a lot of quotes I could use here, but the one I use all the time is you can't fill the homeless from an empty fridge, right? You have to be fulfilled everything in what you do.
Yeah.
And something that last year specifically showed me, and last year, you know, I've been very transparent with it, was very financially turbulent, right? All year was really difficult. And this year I've made some decisions that are going to help me be less turbulent, right? And my stress level is so much lower.
Really?
Right? My passive stress level, I'm not stressed about money all the time. I'm just, I hate saying it, but I'm really chill.
But you've made that conscious decision.
Yeah.
It's not come off of luck.
No.
It's not come off of like, oh, I've got a good gig at work. It's come off of, I'm making a conscious decision today to change my fortune, and now I'm in a better place because of my conscious decision. But people won't do that first conscious decision or even thought.
But
They just carry on.
It also, and what I've noticed in the, you know, traditionally January and February at the time of recording anyway are atrociously bad for work in most industries. But I've been very fortunate to still get some work in, which is I'm grateful for. But also I don't have the same financial burden every month that I did have, which means in turn that's why I say I'm just chill. I'm not stressed. It's like that burden of stress that I was operating under. It's everything is easy. Everything is a breeze for me now because I'm not operating under that. And it doesn't mean I'll never go back to that. It just means as of where I am right now, my long-term objectives are more important to me.
But you're also self-aware of that environment.
And also it wasn't
stress.
healthy.
No.
Right, living in your survival response is not healthy for it. It's meant to be a short period of time. I was living it for a medium period
Fight
of time.
or flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was there every 2 months.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a scary time.
and that's not healthy for you long-term for your own health. And I can see a drastic difference now that I'm not living in that reality. And I've only really been in the reality for like about a week and a half, right? And it's drastically different. And my yardsticks on like when do I need stuff to happen has completely changed. So the pressure on me to perform every day is still there to an extent, but it's less. I have to make a sale tomorrow, especially unfortunately if the economy gets harder. I'm not going to be in a position where I'm like shit every single day.
You're not like trying to float and survive.
No. I can be like, okay, cool, I'm good. Okay, cool, I'm good. Okay, cool, I'm good. Okay, cool, I'm good.
But again, that's not come from luck.
No.
That's come from judgment.
Well, it's come from seeing a trajectory and course correcting. It's saying, okay, if I keep on this trajectory, I'm going to get the same results. If I change this way, what happens then? You know, and there's going to be changes, you know, and there's things, but I don't think it still allows me to do what's in line with my mission and what allows me to do what I do. So, you know, who knows where we'll be in a year. But it will be in a different place to now.
What power do you think words can have, not only on yourself but on others? It sounds like a stupid and obvious question, but it's a question I wanted to ask.
I think the words we say are only as powerful as the person listening wants them to be.
All open for interpretation and what you want to take.
Because I can give you the best, what I would believe is the best, most magical, wonderful, fabulous piece of value. But if the person listening, it's not the right time for them.
No. It's like,
it's not going to work, is it?
What are they looking for?
Yeah. And, you know, I think, you know, there may be some people listening who take one thing from this episode. There may be people who take 15. But as long as it's pushing them or giving them something to consider that maybe pushes them into what they would describe as key important, what they would describe as a positive reality and a positive change, then we've done our job, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because we're here to make the world a better place and to help others, you know, live the life that they want to live. Just a few questions to sort of finish up on.
No, of course.
If you could have coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Albert Einstein, because I quote him a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just because you quote him or just...
He's just a really interesting bloke.
Yeah.
And he's just really smart, and I want to pick his brain about science, because I'm a science boffin, really.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, psychology/science boffin, so...
Do you listen to a lot of Huberman?
Yeah, to an extent. So
anyone
along those lines, or probably there's probably something psychologically. I mean, actually no, I'd probably say Mel Robbins as well. She's a fun character.
I love Mel Robbins,
She's
especially
great.
the episodes on Stephen Bartlett's pod.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
I mean, of course, the classics of like Stephen Bartlett and etc. Those other entrepreneurs, but like I think they're to an extent they're in a bubble and they operate at different levels. So the advice they could potentially give me isn't going to be as valuable as the psychological stuff I could potentially get from Mel, for example.
Because she has that specific field that you're specifically looking for. Again, it comes down to what are you looking for? What do you want to take away from it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. The same with this episode today. Why are you listening today?
But also, do you get information that could be really valuable, but it's too soon?
Yeah,
for you?
Are you ready to hear it or not?
Yeah.
Where are you currently in your own life? What would you change? Oh, sorry, I'll go again. Oh, actually, no, I'll try this one. What are you most proud of from your life so far?
Being here today.
Simple as that.
Every day. Every day I ground myself in, I'm here today.
Comes down to that gratitude.
What can I do today that is going to, what my definition of making the world a better place is? What action? Is that buy one person coffee? Is that do this podcast? Is that say thank you to someone, give someone a smile, whatever it is, tell my mother, my partner, whatever it is that I love them. It's little things. Do that workout, do that run, whatever it is.
Someone picked out the other day from a previous episode of every time I walk into a shop and buy something from the tills, I'll always try and make that person behind the tills day a little bit better and leave them something that's going to last, even whether it's a minute or an hour. Just the encounter we have has to make them become better after and put them in a better mood. And again, I think that comes down to what you just sort of reiterated there, is that make the world a better place and leave a sort of lasting legacy, would you say? What's your hopes and dreams for the future?
To continue to be in line with my vision moving forward is what I would say, and that vision might change, and that's why I always frame it that way, because I don't know. I've done a lot, I've achieved a lot, and I've also suffered a lot. So I know every spectrum, and I know every end. I know the bottom end, I know the top end of life, and I'm just like, okay, let's hope that let's do what action I can to make sure there's more better than worse.
But the thing is, we spoke about it on the way here as well. The most successful people have been through the toughest of times. And people look at champions and gold medalists and successful people and go, what have they got that I haven't? It's like they've been through their worst day and they're still grinding every single day to try and be better. Yeah, that's the simple difference, is they're trying to get after it regardless of what the world wants to throw at them, the cards they want to place on them. Yeah,
and I think, just as a final point to end on for those of you who are watching to this point, I would consider how can you add more peace into your life. And if you are not someone who has a lot of peace in their life right now, how can just adding a small bit of peace can really help and really be tranquil and allow you to think clearer, allow you to operate better, allow you to make probably less decisions, but they're more impactful. The decisions and the things you do are going to be potentially more impactful.
2 questions to finish on. If you could leave the younger generation any bit of advice, what would it be?
Be patient. Whenever anyone asks me a question like that, I ask, what would I say to myself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, etc. Be patient.
Don't rush the process.
Just understand that everything you're currently doing is necessary for you to be the person you need to be, regardless of how difficult or hard that may be right now, or how uncomfortable that is, or how difficult that is, or how shit that may be. You need that to happen for you to be prepared enough for the opportunities that are coming for you. As we alluded to earlier, the concept of luck isn't luck. It's preparation mixed with opportunity.
Preparation mixed with opportunity. I like that. I love that. Taking away so much from today. And last one, what is your definition of an able lifestyle?
Being able to be in line with your vision and being able to do that every day. So for me, what I do every day is that, because I get to basically be the boss of my world every day. If I don't want to do a specific set of things, I won't. If I don't want to do, obviously there's certain commitments I can't necessarily get away from, but in most cases, if I don't want to work or I don't want to edit and I'd rather film, I'll film. If I'd rather work out at 12 instead of 4, I'd work out at 12 instead of 4. If I would rather run instead of swim, I'll run instead of swim, etc. I have the control, and that's the freedom that that would be what I define it as.
Carlton, thank you very much. One thing I'm going to take away from today is always stay in line with your values.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, my friend.
Thank you for coming on.
It's been a great conversation. There you go.
Appreciate that, my friend.
No, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome.
That was really fucking powerful.
Was that